Hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. I am your host, Katie Fensky, and today's conversation is a continuation from last week. So if you heard last week's chat, it was with my friend Tracy, a mom of two, who shared her story of her 10-year journey with infertility. Well, today we're moving to present day. She's telling us what it's like raising a teenage boy. She has some amazing tips on how to encourage these teens to communicate. So I think you are going to absolutely love what she shares with us today. I took notes. I am going to start implementing what she says now because I want to have this kind of relationship with my teens when they're in high school, my soon-to-be teens. Anyways, stay tuned because this is a must listen. Tracy, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
Last week, we talked all about your infertility journey. Well, now we're going to talk about teenagers.
Oh boy.
You have a teenage boy and that's coming for me. And I don't want to be scared of it because I do look at this is going to be such a fun age for them, but I need help.
It's also hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. I don't know how to navigate that.
Yeah.
So first off, do they eat as much as I've heard?
My son is just starting to, only because he's trying to bulk up.
Okay. Like he's aware.
He's aware.
Someone told my son, a 13-year-old told my son, if you drink milk, you'll get really tall. He was drinking so much milk after that. I'm like, you've never, like cereal, he has milk. But he's like, Mom, I need some more milk. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
See, we're at the, Mom, can you buy the protein powders and the creatine?
Oh,
and I'm like,
I'm
not doing that. Let's try real food first.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So how old is he now?
He's 17.
Oh my,
17.
He's almost there. So a sophomore, junior?
He's a junior.
A junior in high school.
Junior in high school.
Gosh. Like it's going to be so fun.
Yeah. So I will say that I think the hardest years for us was probably 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
I've heard middle school is rough.
Middle school's rough.
Just, is it because they're changing? Are they,
so
like, there's just a lot going on with them?
My son described it when he started middle school, which is really perfect. He said, Mom, it's like I'm living in a PG-13 movie now.
Oh.
Because it goes from elementary school.
So sweet. And your elementary school is to 5th grade, right?
Yes.
So ours goes to 6th. So I'm like, at least we get that one extra little year.
So 6th grade was middle school for us. Yeah. So he was this little peanut starting middle school.
Throw him into the ocean.
And there's 8th graders that are 6 feet tall with facial hair.
Yes.
You're like, what's happening?
My sweet little boy.
My sweet little innocent child. He wasn't that innocent, but you know.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I described it. All innocence is gone. I felt like, once they hit that age, I mean, there's just so much that they're exposed to now, and with the phones and all that stuff.
This is a question for you.
Yes.
When, I'm assuming he has a phone now. When did you give him
that
one?
Was hard.
I feel like this is a very hot topic.
I know.
And I just don't know what the right answer is. Because I don't have kids with phones yet. So I can say, you're not getting one till you're 16. That's what I can tell him.
Yeah.
But all my friends with like teens and preteens, they're like, Katie, that's not really realistic.
I know. Kids in elementary school, by the time he was in 5th grade, he was one of the few who didn't have a phone in 5th grade.
And all my friends were like, well, what if they need to get a hold of you? I'm like, but they're going to be with an adult, right? Yeah. Like, or I'm going to be at the field with them.
I'm probably on the more conservative side of this. And I say wait as long as possible. And just, you have to have those conversations with them. Like, you will be different. You will be the only one without a phone. And don't make anyone make you feel bad about it.
Right.
Like, that's our choice as a parent.
Yeah, just blame it on your mom.
Yes.
That's okay.
So we gave him his first phone. He was in 7th grade, his birthday between 6th and 7th grade.
Okay.
And that was, we wanted to wait longer, but we just felt like that was
so hard. What
was crazy is in middle school, teachers actually assumed kids had phones. And so they would say, they get school issued devices, but at the end of the year, they had to turn in their devices, a couple weeks before school ended, or even at the beginning of the year, they didn't get it right away. Be like, take out your phone and go to this app. And he didn't have one.
They had to turn their phones in. They couldn't even use them at school. They were like, oh. So that really separates the who has it and who doesn't.
Yes. So he'd come home and be like, Mom, I felt so lame. I didn't have a phone. And the teacher said to pull up something, It's like, well, let me talk to your teacher because you don't have a phone and that's not okay for her to do that.
Right. I just tell my son, I love you, and that's why you don't have one yet. He's like, oh, come on, Mom. I'm like, no, like there's just too much. Like you just don't need it yet.
And they don't understand all of the extra things that come with having the phone.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention how much they cost, and I'm not ready to pay that yet.
No.
I'm like, he's just like, oh, you'll just buy an iPhone, right? I'm like, and then the plan that goes with it, and then you losing it or breaking it. Yeah.
Well, I will say, we always joked we wanted to get him a flip phone, and you can't even buy those anymore. But what's great about iPhone, we gave him, I think his first phone was actually one of our old iPhones.
Okay.
And what's really nice about iPhone, my husband's pretty tech savvy. It sounds like yours is too. You can take everything off of it.
Yes.
So he literally had no internet.
You can call, you can
text. And my husband's like, you have a few games on there. You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Enjoy.
Yeah.
We have friends who their kids were like, can we get a phone? Can we get a phone? And they're like, no, but you can have a smartwatch. So now you can call and you can text.
Yes.
And that's all you need to do.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, that backfired.
Yeah.
But that's smart. Like that's a good way to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So he has the phone. He has this. He's in high school now. You recently posted an awesome reel where you described different tips on how to encourage communication.
Yes.
Because this is somewhere where I'm like, I want my boys to still be close to me. Yeah. But I do feel like as the mom, I'm like, I'm just I heard a story once or a study that said, like the way teen brains are developed, one, they're not totally developed yet. So they're like, but also like they are like behaviorally meant to like separate from the family because of like genes and like I wish I knew what the study was. Yes. But it's like your instincts are to leave your family so that you're like branching out, breeding with other,
You're a man and
But it felt like, oh my gosh, that's why they're like anti-mom, anti-dad, because they are instinctually trying to separate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't take it personally, right?
No, and you want them to. I mean, you probably don't want your 20-something-year-old, still
not able to
not able to launch into the world.
Yes,
you want to launch
them to come back and visit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you encourage communication with your son?
So I will say it starts early, too. Like a lot of these tips can happen even when they're younger.
Right. Because I feel like this is stuff that I'm like, I need to start.
Yes. Lay the foundation.
Doing this now. Like 9 is a great time to.
And as moms, I think, especially moms of boys, I always thought these will be questions that he'll ask my husband. Mm-hmm. Those uncomfortable questions that you don't want to answer. But we told him from the get-go, if there's ever anything you hear that you're not sure what it is, like whether it's at school or with your friends, please come and ask us. We will never not tell you. We will always tell you the truth, and we will always tell you what it is, even if it's uncomfortable.
Oh, I love that. So you've just established, like, we're open.
We will always tell you the truth. Right. I mean, we went as far as we didn't do Santa Claus and stuff because we didn't want him to one day find out we lied to him.
Got it.
So we were always like, we're always going to be truthful with you. Always. So please come to us.
Is he pretty comfortable coming to you?
So there's many times, and it's always in the car, which is why I always when you're driving and you're not ready, where he'd say, I heard this today. What does that mean? And I'm like,
oh, do I need to tell you
I really don't want it. And so I remember one time, he was older. I think he was probably a freshman at this point. And I said, okay, I'm going to tell you as best as I can without being too graphic.
Got it. Yes.
So I started, and he got it within like 30 seconds. I went, okay, Mom, okay, I get it. I get it. You don't have to go any further. I was like, phew.
Let's go get ice cream.
Anyway, how was math today?
What's your homework tonight?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So, so establishing that early, just knowing they can come to you and talk to you about things. And I know every kid's different. My son is definitely an extrovert, and he likes to talk. So he did go through that moody, broody, like preteen stage where how are you today, son? Fine. They do go through the grunting stage. At least the boys do. I don't have girls, so I don't know. I don't know how that goes with girls. But, where you're kind of digging stuff, and that's okay, but always trying. And then now that he's older, so things that I just as I was thinking through this, like, what do I do to kind of offer those opportunities for him to talk to me? Because we think when they get in high school that they don't need as much oversight, but actually they need more. And
not like, no, you can't do anything, but
just they
structure still.
And they need you to be involved and be, I see it a lot with his friends. Like the parents are sort of like, oh, you're in high school, you're a young adult,
on
like
your own.
They can do all the things themselves. They don't need you to, check their homework, or, when they drive, you don't need to drive them to school either, but still they need you to be involved, or they need you to be invested still in their life. And I think the temptation is to back off a little. So I'm like, okay, what can I do so that he will talk to me? Okay. So one of the things, the biggest distraction is the phone.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times I'm like, get your face out of the phone. Get your face out of the phone.
Yes.
Like, so I hate it.
I'm bad at it. Like,
me too.
I need to do better at that. I can't imagine if my son had one. Like,
so I've established like no phone times. So no phone at the dinner table, obviously. None of us. Like my husband will be like, I got to answer a work text. I'm like, stop it. Put it down. Excuse me. That can wait, you know? And we established no phones in the car. And so
I like that one.
I find that the car is so often the times that we have really good conversations inadvertently. And so I'm like, if he is in the back seat, like scrolling, then he's not engaged in what we're and even if my husband and I are talking, I still don't want him to be on the phone, because I want him to be aware of what we're talking about or what's going on. Right. But when it's just me and him in the car, absolutely no phones. And I still have to remind him, because, when they get a text message, they think they have to respond immediately. Bing! Oh. Yeah. I'm like, she can wait. He can wait. Put it down. I know it's not important.
Right.
So, and oftentimes they'll protest. They'll be like, Mom, this is so lame. Like, whatever. Nope, just put your phone down.
I love you, and this is why we're doing it. I'm doing this because I love you.
And then they'll sit there and they'll pout.
Okay.
And they'll be quiet. And you're just driving, and sometimes I would take the long way to my errand just to kind of get through that quiet part. Okay. And then, at least for my son, after a while, he would just start talking. So you just have to be okay with the awkward silence. Yeah. There's going to be awkward silence. Yeah. And you don't need to fill that up, because when you start talking at them, then they're not going to necessarily. Oh my God,
I would totally do that, I think. That awkward silence, I just like start saying. And someone told me once too, someone who works with teens, she said the common thing teenagers say is, my parents don't listen. They just like, which I do this, like lecture, and they don't stop and listen. So that's like opening up that time for them.
Around the same lines of that, I had a wise woman tell me when my son was younger, you want them to know that you'll listen to what they say. So even if they're talking to you about Minecraft for 2 hours, you listen and oh wow, and
interesting.
And you engage in a Minecraft conversation. Yes. You don't care about Minecraft.
Absolutely not.
But you want them to know that you care about what they are wanting to tell you. Oh. That was a really good piece of advice, and that stayed with me. And so now he'll talk to me about something, and my eyes are starting to roll in the back of my head. Like, I don't know about this. But, okay. Cool. And then I try to ask him questions, and, so just letting it be silent and letting them talk to you is huge, especially in the car when they're trapped with you.
Yes. Yeah. They can't go anywhere.
Yes.
Okay. No phone in the car. First one. What's another one?
Okay. One thing that I found really helpful was, and I know not everyone's able to do this if you work, but to try to get into the school and volunteer. And once you leave elementary school, it's hard.
Oh, I was going to say, do they even let you?
So PTO or PTA, whatever it's called, I am like not, that makes me uncomfortable, like being in the PTA. I'm not one of those moms, but I made myself do it, at least be a part of it, because those are where the volunteer opportunities are. Like they'll have, we're doing a teacher luncheon today. Can you guys come on campus and help with that? Or even at the high school, they'll have honor roll ice cream social during school hours. So then you're on campus handing out ice cream to the honor roll kids,
the other kids,
but you're in the environment. So what I find really helpful is if I understand the environment that he's in all day, they're at school for like 6 hours.
So much.
And so if you understand what the environment looks like when they're in where they're at all day, and then when you start to put faces to names of the kids they're talking about, he would talk about people, I don't know who they are, but if I'm volunteering in the classroom or I'm on campus and I'm starting to see some of these kids and get to know them, then that is super helpful to then be able to engage in conversation that is very natural and organic about their day.
Interesting. That's a tip that I wouldn't even have thought about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even through high school, I just volunteered at a thing at the high school the other night for the volleyball booth. And I stood there awkwardly with my little 5-year-old and I was there in high school and all the kids are walking around. I was like, oh, put some clothes on, honey.
Right. I drive by Foothill every day to pick up my son. And I was like, ooh, isn't there a rule you can't show your stomach at school? No. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes. I'm like,
okay. But try not to say anything.
Yes.
Don't say anything. Okay. No phone in the car. Volunteer at school.
Okay. Another thing, getting back to the car, is I love that I have a big car that seats 7 because I often volunteer to be the driver, especially before they start driving themselves. Whether it's drive the kids to the beach or drive them to soccer or whatever, but as everyone's in the car together, they kind of forget you're there.
And then you can overhear.
And they talk about things. And I'm like, do you realize I'm in the car still? But I just keep my mouth shut and I'm listening. But it actually gives you a little window into just what it's like for them during the day or what they're like with their friends.
Right. I bet they act different than they do
Very
at home.
different.
I have a feeling my 9-year-old is a completely different kid. Because one time I saw him at the school, like we were at the carnival, and he had his little group of friends in front of him. And just hearing him talk, I was like, who are you? This kid?
Totally.
I'm like, and they were all talking like that. It's like their thing. And I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
Yeah. And then it's good to get to know his friends.
Yes.
And then you can meet their families.
Absolutely. We were big on you can't go to that friend's house unless we've met the parents. Yeah.
Which COVID made it so hard.
So hard.
I felt like my oldest was kindergarten, first grade during that whole time. That's like such a pivotal time to meet other families. And since then, I don't think we've like really broken in. Because he's like, can I do a play date with so-and-so? I'm like, I don't know their mom and I don't know how to get their number anymore. Because it's not like, oh, here's the class.
Totally.
It just feels very distant.
Very distant.
We need to do a better job at meeting their friends.
Yeah. I always try to meet the parents, or I would say that child, have him come to our house. Be the house.
Yes.
Which kind of leads me to my next point. It's similar as be the driver. If you can, be the house. Be the house that people come to. So I'm thankful we have a pool. And so that is a fun thing to be like, hey, everyone, come swim and hang out at our house over the summer. We have a jacuzzi, and it's funny because over this summer, there's 17-year-old boys and they're all sitting in the jacuzzi and they're all like just talking I'm like, that's great. I'm glad that they're here.
Yes. And I'd rather them know that they're doing this here than doing somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then same thing as they're, you're interacting with them inadvertently, or you're just around and you can hear what they're talking about. And I'm not saying you need to spy or eavesdrop, but just get a feel for what it's like to be them. And then that way you can have better conversation.
Right. Because it feels so long ago that I was a teen.
And it's so different.
And I felt like I was so old. And then you look at these kids, you're like, they're kids.
Yes.
Like, yeah, but they feel like they're so old.
And they think they know everything. I thought I knew
my
everything.
9-year-old already does.
Yeah.
He's so much smarter than me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Next one you said was check in often.
Yes. So I'm really intentional about this. Checking in for me looks like he'll be in his room doing homework, and I might be downstairs, cleaning the kitchen or whatever. And then I'll come upstairs and I'll just go in his room and sit on his bed. And I'll be like, hey, do you have a second? Like, are you done with that? Or what are you working on? And then he'll tell me, and then I'll just sit there and again,
just let it come out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I have a specific question I need to ask him, I will, but just how's it going? Like there's times where, last year, what was really nice is he had his schedule just worked out to where he only had 0 to 4th period.
Okay.
And he was able to come home, because he started driving last year. He was able to come home.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Changes your world, right?
It really does. It's sad for a minute and then you're like, bye.
But this is great.
Yeah. He would come home for lunch and then he would go back for after school sports. And my little guy was in preschool at that time that he would come home for lunch. So I had that one-on-one time. And I made it a point to have really good food ready for him. So he'd want to come home because he could stay at school and eat. They have free lunches right now.
Okay.
But I wanted him to come home. So I'd make sure I had something he wanted to eat that he'd want to come home. Entice him home. And then I would sit at the table across from him and I would wait to have my lunch when he had his lunch with me. And he knew the phone had to set down. And I would say, give me the 2-minute recap of the day. And he'd go, because, with boys, if you're like, so tell me about your day. Yeah. How is this? How is that? Yeah. They're like, Yeah. So I'm like, give me the 2-minute recap. And so then he would, in first period.
The highlight reel?
The highlight reel. Exactly. But oftentimes it was longer than 2 minutes. It just got him talking. So then he would tell me the tea about this person and that person. And I started to get like a snapshot of kind of what was going on.
You have one of those map, the like crime scene maps. You're like, this person with
totally.
this. That.
Oh, they broke up, so move this over here.
Cut that yarn.
Totally. But I appreciated that he felt comfortable enough to tell me that stuff. Yeah. I knew all about the people, and I know he doesn't tell me everything, and that's fine. But I feel like I like to know just kind of what's going on. And so then we would have our lunch together, and then he would be like, okay, can I check my phone now? I'm like, sure. Here it is.
Absolutely. Yes.
So just finding those intentional moments. We love to, he's a huge movie buff because he wants to do something in film later. And so we watch movies a lot. And oftentimes it'll just be me and him because my husband has to get up early for work. And so after the movie's over, credits are rolling. If you're just both sitting there, like rather than just be like, okay, it's time for bed, let's go. Like just sit there and just let it be silent. And oftentimes that's when he would just start talking.
Yeah.
And it's 11 at night. And sometimes I'm like, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. But as soon as he starts talking, like I'm there for it. And I'm not going to like cut it off. Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's a good one. Okay. The last one you said, have fun and be silly with them.
Yes. So I think we sometimes get so caught up in our adulting and our parenting and we're constantly having to say no, and we're constantly having to
be the disciplinarian.
The yes. And you just feel like you're such a drag, you know? And so there's times where I just feel like I'll find us laughing together or being silly or, now that I have an Instagram account for my work, like I'll be like, hey, will you do a reel with me? Like, or I need an idea for this, and just like be silly and
get into their worlds a little bit.
And just, whether that's, I remember one time he's like, Mom, will you play Call of Duty with me? And I was like, I don't.
Sure.
Okay. And I was literally like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But like just being able to say yes to those
for
things.
For him, that's cool.
Yes.
Like Ronan's all about like, oh, this is cool, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. So just like be silly, have fun, enjoy. And that's one thing I've really liking about the teen years. Don't get me wrong. We've had a lot of roller coasters, a lot of things that I'm like, what is happening? Where's the manual?
Where's my baby?
They don't tell you how to deal with this, But there have been just really sweet moments where you start to see a glimpse into who they are as a person and their character and just their personality. And you think, oh, I like you. Like I had the realization. I've always liked my son. But there's times where, especially in those middle school years, you're like, oh, like you're mean.
Yeah.
Where now I can see these glimpses of like him as a young man.
Like who you're going to be.
And I'm like, I enjoy being around you. Aww. I enjoy your sense of humor. I enjoy some of these conversations we're having that are organic and not just me having to talk, about something with you that, the rules or whatever, like, but just organic conversation, like seeing just that has been such a sweet gift of the teen years is you start to see the fruit of your labor of all of those years of the younger years of laying those foundations, those hard years of, discipline and structure and rules. You just start to see like, oh,
You're going to do great.
Yeah.
Like, I can let you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be hard, but
it is hard.
I
guess we have now forged into the girlfriend
Okay, and
realm.
that's what you wrote. You wrote at the end of that reel, very soon you won't be the only person wanting their attention. And he has like his arm around a girl. And I'm like, oh goodness.
Yes.
That's hard.
Yeah.
When like she's the focus of his life now.
Yeah. One thing that just my heart wanted to melt when he was talking, you know, there's different stages. There's the talking stage and then there's the get to know you stage before the dating. They were in the talking stage.
But he opened up and told you about this.
So I also read his phone. I'm not going to be unapologetic about that.
I have heard many people say that. And I heard it's okay to say, I will read everything you write. So
when you hand them a phone, you say, this is not your phone. This is my phone. And I have full autonomy to take it when I want, to look at it when I want. And you're okay with that because I pay for it.
Yeah. Yes. I love that.
So he knows.
Okay.
Every so often he'll be like, hand me your phone. And he'll be like, oh, mom, check in.
Yes.
Check in.
Yes.
So I do read his phone, not every day, but I check in here and there. And so I did see there was a new girl in there and I was like, who's this? Yeah. So then we started talking about it. And he said to me after they had been talking for a while back and forth on text, and then she likes to play video games too, which is rare.
Wow.
And so they would have their video game dates, you know?
Yeah.
And so they're on Discord and, you know, playing.
So different nowadays.
So different. He said, Mom, I can't wait for you and Dad to meet her.
Oh.
Like, you know, that's when you know it's a good one.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's a good one. Because there'd been,
and I appreciate that you want to bring her home to meet us.
Yes.
Like you respect our opinion and our, you know.
Because there'd been some girls prior that we were like,
where's your shirt?
Yeah. If she's gonna send you that kind
where's
of picture,
the rest of that dress?
Nope, that's not a good.
Yes.
Nope. Done. Delete.
Yes.
Block.
Yes. She will not be calling you again.
Exactly. Girls are aggressive. As a boy mom,
I have heard that. My neighbor across the street, she told me, she's like, it's not the boys you worry about, it's the girls.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we knew that she was going to be a good one when he felt like that. And I could just see how happy he was. Like there was just this sort of like glow about him when he would talk about her. And I was like, okay, wow, okay, you know? And
so have you met her?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was our rule. If he was going to date somebody, we had to meet her.
Okay.
And ideally, we'd like to meet the parents, but first was meet her.
Yeah.
And so he actually went to her house first and met the parents and had dinner with her family.
Wow. Was he so nervous?
So nervous. But he was acting like he wasn't nervous.
Yeah.
But we met the parents later and he goes, we could tell he was nervous.
I like that. No, that's sweet.
Her parents are awesome. Like it's a great situation. So then she came over to our house a week later, had dinner with us. My little guy, or his little brother, just like adores her, would not leave her alone. And to where, you know, my older son was like, back off, like back off.
She's mine.
Yes. But just, she's a really great girl. And I think that helps, you know, but she is not afraid to spend time with us as a family. It's not like they just want to do their own thing. We went to Disneyland together and had a great time. Yeah. Yeah, her family's great. So we loved the fact that her parents were willing to meet us. So we went on a double date with her parents.
Wow.
And they were so awesome.
They're like, you can never break up with her because we love this family.
I kind of was like, can we just go ahead and sign a deal right now? Like
arranged marriage.
Yes, arranged marriage.
This is going to work out.
Yes.
Do they have plans to go like off to college or?
So she
it's still a little early, I would say.
Yeah, she's a senior. So because he's older in his grade, she's younger. She's a senior. He's a junior. She's actually looking into nursing, so she wants to do some stuff around here. There's a lot of hospitals around here. And he, I think, is on the junior college path because he's not quite sure where he wants to land.
That's brilliant, though. Like such a great option to go that way, and
we are so fortunate. We have a lot of options,
good options around here. Yeah. Oh my gosh, well, I'm so fortunate for all of your like wisdom. It makes me excited about the next stage. Like, you know, so many times you dread like, oh my gosh, what's gonna be like, but I think it's gonna be challenging, but it's gonna be fun. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing all that. And now I want to meet your boys. Well, I've met the young one, meet the older one. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, was Tracy amazing or what? I mean, I feel like we can go into these teen years prepared and not quite as scared as I think I was before. So thank you so much, Tracy. You are an inspiration to us, and I loved having you on. If you are enjoying this podcast, I would love it if you found me. Come say hi to me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Burnt Pancakes with Katie. So shoot me a DM, say hello, tell me what episodes you've been listening to. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel or leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. So until next week's conversation, I want to remind you that everyone burns their first pancake, so just keep flipping.